Hello everyone, this is Father Michael Lilly here at the Orthodox Experience, doing a quick video on spiritual reading. Over the weekend I got an email from an inquirer to the Orthodox Church wanting to know which of the spiritual fathers she could begin reading to get a little bit more insight into the spiritual life of Orthodoxy. And I thought, well, what a great question. I've done this in my own parish before and did some recommendations, but I came up with a list of 10 books that were focused on spirituality. Not necessarily theology. I think especially for somebody who's beginning in Orthodoxy that too much theology is maybe a little bit more difficult for them to consume, but more on the spiritual life. So that was my criteria here, something that would help in the develop the soul of somebody spiritually in Orthodoxy. So I came up with a list of 10. They're not in any specific order. They're books that I knew that were easily you can attain them on the internet. There will be links to where you could purchase these here in the description box below. And so at the end of the video, make sure to also go ahead and put in your own recommendations down below in the comments section so that we can share this with everyone. But here are a list of 10. The first book recommendation is Father Arseny, Cloud of Witnesses. This is actually a second volume in a book that came out prior to this one, and it's the stories about a higher monk, Father Arseny, that did work in the Soviet prison camps as he was interned there, and that was the first book. And the second volume, it continues where Father Arseny is highlighted with additional narratives from his spiritual children and the lives that he's touched. It's a very moving book. I've actually read it myself many times, so you can't go wrong with it from a spiritual standpoint. The second book is The Indication of the Way into the Kingdom of Heaven by St. Innocent of Moscow and Alaska. This book was written as a catechetical book for his flock in Alaska during the 19th century. And it is a simple yet challenging introduction to Christianity that discusses what it means to know God and have a relationship with Jesus. It really is a great synopsis of the Orthodox faith. The third book is The Life and Teachings of Elder Thaddeus. This book records a collection of his teachings preserved by his faithful spiritual children. It goes into his life, his teachings, and his spiritual conversations. In it, you'll find his very important teachings that speak directly to the heart of modern man regarding a positive mental outlook in the spiritual warfare of our lives. I really believe that every person today who lives today can use this book and get something out of it for their spiritual lives. The fourth book is a book that I read many years ago, and then when I went to seminary, it was also assigned to us as part of our spirituality classes, and it is The Spiritual Life and How to Be Attuned by St. Theophan the Recluse. This book is the correspondence in a volume of letters he sent to a young lady in 19th century Russia that had a glimpse of her immortality of her soul, and he addresses this with her. This is a valuable textbook on the spiritual life, and it's really written in a simple and accessible manner. The fifth book is The Arena by St. Ignatius Brianchaninov. One of the most important and accessible texts of the Orthodox Christian teaching on the spiritual life, this book draws upon the ascetic and mystical doctrine of the Church Fathers and the greats of the Orthodox Christian Church. Originally, this book was written for novices entering into monasticism and his instructions on how they should live that out. But this book also is applicable to the daily Christian living in the world. Many of the chapters are very essential to Orthodox spirituality. The next book, book 6, is Letters to Spiritual Children by Abbot Nikon. It's a short book where the abbot is addressing his spiritual children. Father Nikon was a Russian priest during the Soviet Union and speaks to those seeking guidance on the difficult path of salvation. He balances exhortation and reproach with encouragement and consolation, instructing the reader in the fundamentals of the Christian struggle. The next book, it's a fictional book, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky's last and greatest novel was written in the 19th century. It is the story of a murder that chronicles the bitter love-hate struggle between an outsized father and his 3 very different sons. In this book, he captures the human condition and highlights the Russian Orthodox spirituality of the 19th century Optina elders found in the character of Zosima, the elder Zosima, in this book. The next book, book 8, is The Way of the Ascetics by Tito Kaliander. Tito was a Finnish Orthodox lay theologian, and he wrote this book. It's a short book. It is a classic offering that has insightful chapters about an applied orthodoxy that are very challenging in today's world. It may be too challenging for some to apply everything that he writes about, but many of the chapters are very excellent on how we can make ourselves more ascetical, which is a very important key in the Orthodox Christian life. The next book is also kind of semi-fictional account. It is The Way of the Pilgrim, and it was written by an unknown 19th century Russian peasant. It's a first-hand account of a pilgrim's journey as he endeavors to live out St. Paul's instruction to pray without ceasing. The narrator, this unknown peasant, sets out on his pilgrimage with nothing but a Bible, a prayer rope, and some dried bread. As he walks, he recites the Jesus prayer. With this prayer constantly on his lips, the pilgrim undergoes a profound spiritual education, and in it he encounters many different people and has different events occur to him along this journey. It is a classic, and it's at the top of the reading list for probably most everyone who is entering into Orthodoxy. The final book is Everyday Saints and Other Stories by Abbot Tikhon, now Metropolitan Tikhon of the Skolf Caves Monastery in Russia. It's a book of stories that peer into the mysterious Russian soul where happiness reigns no matter what life may bring. Page upon page of thanks, praise, and testimonies to the life-changing events that Christ has brought to just normal, everyday people, often during most difficult times in Soviet Russia. So this is millions upon millions of people have read this book, and it's highly recommended. It's hard to put down. So that's the list of 10. This is by no means an exhaustive list. There is tons and tons of reading out there. So be sure to leave your comments in the comment section about what you would recommend for spiritual reading in the Orthodox Church.